The only benefit to waking up at 4:30 in the morning to watch that game is that the second half was very much like a lullaby and put me right back to sleep. Chelsea lose 2-0 at Stamford Bridge to Brentford. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. Essien! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the championship!
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is your Chelsea match review, but more specifically, a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance against Brentford. But before I get into all that, please do me the favor, you know already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button. We are trying to grow this channel, and the best way I know how to do that is by you guys doing your part and hitting the like button so most people can see this content. It'll help me, and it'll help my sponsors who go by the name of Major League Socks. And fellas, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do, just hit them up. The link will be in the description. First of all, I have to apologize to my regular watchers that I haven't been making videos. I have to let you know that I am a musician and I've been on the road for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it's been very, very difficult to find opportunities to report on Chelsea. Obviously, we had the international break, which took a little bit of time away from the game anyways, but, you know, I missed the Arsenal game, which I had a lot to discuss on that one. And, you know, I'm just trying to find opportunities where I can speak to you guys about what I'm seeing on the pitch. And it's become very, very difficult. It's not going to get any easier the next little while. I'm still going to be on the road for pretty much most of November, but I will try and find opportunities where I can speak to you guys and let you know what I'm thinking on this stuff. With that said, we did get to watch the Brentford game today, and my gosh, it's like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back with this Chelsea team. We finally start seeing an idea of football on the pitch. We're starting to see guys getting comfortable with one another, understanding each other's runs. And then we're besieged by another rash of injuries with Mudryk coming out of the game and Enzo Fernandez. And, you know, what's left is, again, a mismatched bunch of guys. And we're going to get into it. We're going to speak on a few guys in particular and what I thought Chelsea were trying to execute, particularly in the first half. We're going to be speaking on Cole Palmer, who I will get into it later, but I think I might have misprofiled this guy. He's actually playing incredible football the last little while. We're going to be speaking on Nico Jackson, their relationship. And we're just going to be speaking on the overall form of this club right now, where we are, you know, what we're trying to do offensively, what we're trying to do defensively, and why we're still seeing the likes of Disasi playing right back for us. Now, for those of you that are regular watchers of Couch Critic, you will know that my favorite position to analyze on the pitch, my favorite position in general, is the midfield, and it's mainly because it's the most contested area on the pitch. It's where you find the most intense battles, and it's also where I find that the games are often won and lost. I've also characterized the midfield number 10 position as a position where you need your best offensive thinker, somebody that understands what you want to do in the final third and has a picture in his head before he receives the ball of where he wants to play that next pass. And for the longest time now, Chelsea just haven't had anyone that number 10 role who can play in the middle of the pitch, dictate the play, find those soft spots within the defensive setup, and just basically be the offensive thinker in the final third. And, you know, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was of the opinion that Cole Palmer is the exact opposite of that. I didn't think that he was going to be a guy that could come in and be an offensive thinker, the brain trust in our final third. And I have to admit, I might have misprofiled him. He is looking every bit like a number 10, a traditional number 10, a guy that when given space can pick passes, a guy that when he's on the ball, he's already thinking about where the next move is, a guy before he receives it, a guy that is marshaling, showing people where they need to be effective, you know, where he wants them to make runs and whatnot. And this was on full display here against Brentford today, where Cole Palmer in the final third was, when given time and space, was picking passes like nobody's business. He was so effective on the ball. And a lot of that came down to, of course, Brentford sitting off and just basically playing with a really, really low block and allowing us to play in front of them and not really giving us any spaces to exploit. But the genius of Cole Palmer on the day was the fact that even though for the most part, Brentford were airtight. Their defensive setup was a 5-3-2. They didn't really give us a lot of spaces to exploit. He was very much involved in finding the soft spots and picking some incredible passes in the first half. Some of the things that I noticed in his game that I didn't think were prevalent when I saw him at any time at City, which wasn't very much, to be honest, so allow me, I wasn't really watching him too tough back in them times, but what I'm starting to see is that this guy in the final third is an offensive thinker, a guy that analyzes where the defense is moving to and tries to get the ball into spaces where they aren't. Not only is he doing that effectively well, but his link-up play with Nico Jackson today, I thought in the first half in particular, was exceptional. 1-2 touch passes around the box where things have to speed up, and just his technique and composure got him into decent areas on more than a few occasions. They're starting to see a partnership there developing between the two of them. But in terms of him being the guy that you want to have the ball at his feet in that final third, the guy that you want to be making the decisive passes to get people in behind, to orchestrate where the next move is going, he's showing that he has the ability to do that at a very, very young age. And I'm looking forward to seeing the maturation of his game going forward now, especially when we get some of the other pieces that we have into the squad back again. This is who you want making those decisions in the final third. So I have to say to him, I was wrong. I have no problem with admitting that I'm wrong. It is called Couch Critic. I have no ego when it comes to admitting that my premature assessment of players is wrong, and I'm firmly in behind this Cole Palmer movement right now. I feel like this guy is exactly what we wanted in that position, a guy that can slow the game down in the final third. When he gets there, he makes decisive passes, and he's also a guy that has the vision. He can see the pitch and knows where we want to attack. And not only that, a lot of these clips that I'm showing here show that we had a game plan in mind, and he was very, very capable of executing it. Obviously Chelsea wanted to work it into the middle of the pitch, but only to work it down the channels where we felt that Brentford were really soft. And there was 2 or 3 occasions in the game today where I felt like Chelsea were specifically trying to work it into the channels to either Cucurella for that opportunity he had in the first half, or even the one to Raheem Sterling where Raheem Sterling's making that run into the channel, the left back post, and what looked like a foul to me wasn't awarded, but all of that seemed like it was right off of the training pitch. It wasn't the only instances where we saw Chelsea make those inroads as well. Raheem Sterling tried to make another pass like that to the back post. When you watch him play, you can see that he understands what the manager is asking of him, and he's executing it at a high level. Here's another instance here where he's on the ball. He sees that there's an opportunity to get into the channel for Nico Jackson, and he's almost furious at the fact that Nico Jackson's not making the run. Then the very next play, he's already telling him where he needs to be. He's telling him you need to make that diagonal run to get into the channel. And the very next time he gets the ball, you see Nico Jackson making that run, and then I think it was Disasi that ends up slipping in, Nico Jackson for another opportunity. But again, this is just him analyzing the game, assessing what we need to do, and being the offensive thinker for guys that, maybe not have the same sort of thought process when it comes to, breaking down teams in the final third. And now these are just the first steps. I want to see more of an evolution. I want to see him be more of a finisher in the final third, not just a guy that is, laying it off to somebody in a better position, but taking the opportunities and scoring them as well. Now, quickly, we're just going to touch on some of the other aspects of the game, some of the other individual performances that left something to be desired. In my opinion, the first being Madueke. His game is this to me. Noni Madueke is a dribbler. He's a guy that gets into 1v1 situations and looks to challenge his defender by either taking him to the byline or using some trickery to get inside the box. And this is what this game was screaming for. What we needed was a dribbler, somebody can either get to the byline, destabilize that back line, put them under immense amount of pressure, have them guessing whether he's going inside or outside. And for the most part, whenever Noni Madueke got on the ball, he wasn't really looking to take on his defender. I mean, Hickey had an easy game, and it got even more difficult for him once they started to double team and Janholt, or I can't remember who the midfielder was that came over to cut off the supply line there. And this is what we need from Noni Madueke. We just need him to play his natural game to be effective. This is what it was asking for. We want Noni Madueke, when he gets into the areas, the final third and whatnot, to use his trickery, use his pace, use his ability to, get defenders on their back heels, use that effectively in those situations. And at no point in this game did I feel like he was effective in that regard. So, he wasn't the only one. I thought Raheem Sterling has some decent runs on the left flank, but again, for me, Raheem Sterling is the kind of guy that after you see his first 2 or 3 touches in a match, you already know what you're going to get. And this, unfortunately, was not a great game by him. Got into excellent areas all game and just failed to execute every time. When he's running down the flank, when Chelsea got numbers and were looking to exploit, Brentford in the wide areas and whatnot, every time the ball came to Raheem Sterling and he was looking for the cutbacks, it was a mishit pass here or just an overhit pass, and he just never once found our strikers in the area. And no easy task, to be honest. Obviously, Brentford defended in numbers the entire match. I mean, Chelsea just could not cope with the amount of defenders Brentford decided to play with. And this is not just, the aspects of the game where they were up 1-0, 2-0. This is the entire game. They allowed Chelsea to have the ball in the middle areas of the pitch. They allowed us to have it on the flank. What they weren't going to do is allow for us to pull them out of position, pull them out of their shape, and it made it very difficult for Chelsea to thread passes through. It made it very difficult for Chelsea to really attack them with, the 1-2 touch passes that we were seeing, Cole Palmer demonstrate with Nico Jackson. It was just very, very difficult because none of the defenders were being enticed towards the ball. We had to be razor sharp with our accuracy in terms of our deliveries, and we had to move the ball very quickly. Every time we got on the break, I felt like Chelsea had trouble, just coping with the numbers. When you think that you're going to be 3v1, 3v2, all of a sudden, Brentford have 7 men in the box again. And when you have that sort of like numerical advantage, it doesn't matter. You can make errors all game long. If you have a 7-3 numerical advantage in the box, like you see here, there's no way Chelsea are going to be able to pierce that back line. So what's the answer? You're saying, yes, we should be committing more bodies forward. But who do we have to do that? Like, who are these attackers that we're talking about? Chelsea were shorthanded the entire game. We brought on David Washington at the end of the game. We brought on, Ian Maatsen at the end of the game. And, ultimately, those guys are not ready to play in a Premier League game where we're playing against a compact defense and looking for, incisive passes in order to break down teams. But it's not because I felt that Chelsea's overall game plan was ineffective. I just felt like we did not have the personnel to match what Brentford were doing extremely well, frustrating us and giving us very little space to pick passes. All kinds of shouts on social media and whatnot for Malo Gusto, who many thought should have started this game ahead of Disasi. And again, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Malo Gusto, for me, since we've been seeing him play at Chelsea, has shown that he's a defensive stalwart. He hasn't really shown that he has the ability to overlap and, make those incisive crosses into the box that, many feel that we needed in this game. Like, we're talking about a team in Brentford that gave no spaces. They're very comfortable with us having the ball out wide. Whether or not we had an overlap coming when Reece James came into the game, it was still a very congested box, and it made it very difficult for even a guy like Reece James, who's very good at crossing the ball, to find, attackers in the area. And for me, Gusto hasn't really shown the ability to do that either, to overlap well and get himself into effective areas to impact the game. I mean, more often than not, when Chelsea play that system where we play with the 3 defenders at the back, it's usually, if we're playing with 2 fullbacks, it's usually Malo Gusto who's the guy that is actually hanging back a little bit further, and then one of Cucurella or, Ben Chilwell when he's healthy were the ones that were getting forward and trying to, pierce through the back line. I haven't seen enough of Malo Gusto to suggest that he would make a difference in the game. What I have seen is Disasi has been good at ranging passes, has been good defensively, aerially he's been good, and he's also scored a goal. I mean, this is a game where you're playing against a Brentford team who are very physical, have a lot of physicality and height in their back line and all over the pitch, and Chelsea just don't have enough of it. And for that reason, I had no problem with seeing Disasi in the game, not only for the defensive aspects of it, but also for attacking aerial duels in the attacking areas as well. We just needed somebody to be more present there. I mean, I'm of the opinion that I feel like that's why he was brought into the game, to match up with what Brentford offered and to try and give give us a little bit more physicality in the final third. But for me, I don't think that we look at this game and say, well, if this person were in the game, it would have been different. Yes, of course it would have been different, but we would also be at a disadvantage in other aspects of the game. So it's you give and take certain aspects to, impact the game. When Chelsea went down 1-0, you immediately saw Reece James come off the bench to try and, put more of an attacking threat in the final third. But I don't think the first 65 minutes came down to the fact that Malo Gusto wasn't playing instead of, Disasi. But I do think I'm going to wrap it up right there. Chelsea unable to get anything from Brentford today. Just an unbelievable performance. This is now the third game on the trot that Brentford have taken all 3 points at Stamford Bridge, and if I'm not mistaken, that is a Premier League record. Brentford have become the only team to win their first 3 matches at Stamford Bridge, and man, you can say they deserved it. They were very much composed in their shape and whatnot, but let's be real here. Chelsea had a lot, again, of injuries that just came at the wrong time once again. The loss of Enzo, the loss of Mudryk. These are guys that were just starting to come into their form. We saw Mudryk score against Arsenal. We're seeing like a connection between the players in the attacking areas. And, as soon as we get that, we're now having to pull them out of the lineup and find guys that haven't played for quite some time in the likes of Noni Madueke, and of course, obviously Nico Jackson's always playing, but has he played a lot with Cole Palmer? Not really. So again, the synergy and chemistry in the squad is being tested when we start to find some semblance of form, and it's just unfortunate. We really just have to get healthy before we can really evaluate what this team can do. But the matches come thick and fast in the Premier League, and next up is another tough opponent. So we have to find a way to play when we're not at our best, when we're not fully fit, and it just hasn't come to fruition yet. I'm starting to believe that Chelsea just haven't really assembled a complement of players that are like for like substitutions all over the pitch. Like, we have a lot of players in the squad. We've spent a lot of money, but we haven't really defined a bench player who can come on and make an impact when we have injuries and whatnot. Outside of maybe Cucurella, who I thought was, again, very, very good. Not very good in the final third. The same problems that plagued Raheem Sterling in the final third, trying to find that final ball, were the same things that plagued Cucurella. Obviously, he had an opportunity to score as well, but everything else, he seems to be getting real touch tight to his man. He seems to be winning a lot of duels as well, and this is why Chelsea wanted him. He's a guy that can lock down a flank, and he's starting to show signs of doing that again. Hopefully that can continue on in the subsequent weeks as we face tough opponents. But you know what, guys? I'm not really going to dwell on these wins, losses too tough, because I know that Chelsea's, the zenith of their football, the best days of our football are ahead of us, and we just need to get healthy and find some semblance of form. But until then, keep the blue flag flying high, and up the Chelsea. Peace.